We're chatting about this new bar in Hove on the NewsHour, which is effectively stopping phone and internet signal. I just wanted to begin by asking you, what do you think about that idea?
Well, I think on several levels, Hannah, it might not be a bad idea. I mean, the thing about phones today is they're not just phones, are they? They're sophisticated computers. They open up all kinds of opportunities for collaboration, for entertainment and so on, but there's a growing body of research that shows they're also doorways into distraction. A few years ago, 20% of British divorce cases were citing Facebook as contributing factors in marriage breakdown because people were spending more time in their smartphone online relationships than they were in their real-time relationships. And psychologists even have a word for that now. It's called absent presence, where you have maybe 6 people at the meal table at home and only 3 of them are actively engaged in conversation. The others are all off in cyberspace somewhere. And what I find really interesting, Hannah, by the way, is that at the same time that problem's growing in society, leading high-tech companies are looking for ways to form innovation hubs. They're coming together to form physical communities because they apparently recognise that a growing drive for high-tech brings with it a greater need for high touch. And sometimes we just need to be in physical proximity to one another to really share ideas and values.
I mean, you said that people are at the table, maybe 6 people, only 3 of them actively engaging in conversation. I mean, that leads me on to the question, have we become dependent to some extent or maybe addicted to the idea of smartphones? As you say, they're very clever computers.
Yeah, I mean, there's a case to be made for addiction, or at least an over-reliance at times. And there's another interesting thing that's happening in the world. We call it transactional relationships with machines. My wife and I have been married for 36 years this year. When we got married, we formed a transactional relationship. She'll remember some things, and I'll remember other things, and sort of together we get it right some of the time. Now we're doing that with machines, according to a lot of research that's coming out. So we don't remember what we find on the internet through our phones. We remember where we found it, and we rely on the machine to remember it. So we store it in Evernote or Pocket or some other software. And because it's not stored into human memory, it doesn't produce innovation. It doesn't produce new ideas, simply because new ideas are always born out of connections between old ideas. So there are aspects to this whole digital connection that point us in the direction of pulling back a little bit and thinking about the future implications of how we use it.
And Mel, you've been following social trends for a number of years now. Is this something that you saw coming? Did you expect this to happen when we started getting, phones that were ever more clever?
Well, I think most of us could see some of it coming because, even in my lifetime, particularly from the 70s onwards, you could see a growing engagement with computerization. The 80s, it really kicked in on a personal level, but in the 70s, even in industry, there was a growing reliance on big computers back then that would fill, a house today. But there was a growing reliance on what we now call big data analytics and things like that. So I think there was always a sense in which this could be both a blessing and a potential danger for us. And of course, technology is not destiny. It's not technology on its own that decides our future. It's how we respond to the technology, and that's my particular interest. It's one thing to know about the technology, but how do human beings respond to it? How are they engaging with it, and what is that making of our future?
And finally, Mel, would you then advocate more smartphone black spots like this one, or is technology a part of life that's here to stay?
Well, it is a part of life that's here to stay, but as I just indicated, we do need to learn to manage it better, lest the machine takes over from the human being, For example, in school study zones, I'd like to see blackout areas there. I think there's growing evidence that because of transactional relationships, we aren't remembering things properly. So coffee shops and cafes. The Bank of America last year conducted a study and found that its most productive workers mingled the most with other people. So that made them refashion their coffee areas, making them more attractive, more appealing, so that people would leave their desks and actually come together for coffee. And in about 3 months, they saw a 10% boost in their productivity as a company. Our brains need downtime. They need time to assimilate what they're learning and building it into memory. And I think machines are great and technology is wonderful, provided that we don't simply build faster and faster machines to take us nowhere. That is, we have to give thought to how we're engaging with them.